Is it just me, or do player career modes in sports games kinda suck nowadays? Or at the very least, they haven't really progressed in any big way in the last 5 to 10 years. In this video, I'm going to take you through everything wrong with player career modes and how it can be fixed. In the first half of the video, we'll cover the different ways sports games approach player career modes, from 2K's cinematic storylines to the more standard menu-based modes we see in pretty much every other game. And in the second half, I'll take you through what my ideal player career mode would be. Let's start with NBA 2K's cinematic stories. When 2K first started introducing cutscenes and a story with characters, it felt like a huge step forward for player career modes, and they continued to build on this idea in the years that followed. But after a while, it seemed like there were less and less big improvements or steps forward, and instead there was just the same idea with a slightly different story each year, even those stories all started to feel pretty similar. The other problem with this cinematic approach has always been that it has to have an endpoint. In the last 5 to 10 years, these My Career stories have been pretty immersive up until you make it to the NBA, but after that, the story kind of disappears. 2K14 was the first My Career mode that I played that had cutscenes and characters, and it was really awesome for one season. Once I made it to my second season, the cutscenes mostly dried up, and the ones that remained were just repeated from the first season. A great example of this is when your player wakes up on game day not feeling too great, and the game has you try and replicate Michael Jordan's iconic flu game. Now this was a really cool moment, the first time. Around the same point in my second season, the same cutscene played, and the same challenge was handed to me. The great thing about sports video games is that unlike story-driven games, where there's an end to the story, sports games are almost never ending, and allow you to play through an entire player's career, which could be 10 or even 20 seasons. The cinematic story approach isn't able to do that, or if it does, the first season or even just the first few hours are really immersive, but the mode can feel kinda lifeless once all those immersive cutscenes and storylines disappear. It's because of this, and sometimes much smaller budgets, that most sports games go the alternate route, which is menu-based. There's not really any cutscenes or scripted story, and you spend most of your time scrolling through menu screens. I find that these types of player career modes tend to get boring pretty fast and lack any real immersion. So how do we solve this issue, and what would an ideal player career mode look like? Let's start out by looking at what I believe are important aspects of a player career mode. And of course, let me know what's important to you in the comments. Firstly, I think it's important to have our player earn their way up to the pros. When I played NBA 2K11 and had to work my way up from the D-League to the NBA, that was a game changer. It felt so much more rewarding to follow my player's journey rather than just selecting my favorite team and being a starter from the get-go. The cricket video games we've seen from Big Ant over the last 10 years even took this a step further by having you start your journey playing suburban cricket for a local team. And you know what? Make it possible for us to never make it to the pros. If I'm playing on the hardest difficulty and my player just isn't that good, maybe his entire career is playing 10 years with his local team. That's still a story. The next important aspect in a player career for me is the immersion, and how real the game can make this experience feel for the player. The first way I'd go about doing this is creating hub environments that can be freely roamed around by the player. Now I don't mean open worlds like 2K have done with the city and the island in their WWE games. I'm talking about smaller hub environments such as your player's apartment, the team training facility, or the game day stadium, all of which would be accessed by a map similar to the one in Superstar mode back in Madden 06. This is something 2K have played around with in their NBA games, and it's really cool to wander around the backstage area of the arena before and after a game, going straight from the locker room out onto the court to warm up, or heading over to the media room for a press conference after the game. But that immersion is killed once you leave the arena and go out into the city, which feels more like a basketball theme park than the real world we live in. Another way I would add to the immersive atmosphere would be being able to have conversations with your coaches or teammates. Obviously, these would be text-based. We're not going to get every player in the league to come in for a voiceover session, but imagine being able to head to the team training facility and go over to your coach's office at any time and ask him about your minutes or your role in the team. This really would have come in handy when I was recently playing my career mode in AFL 26, where I was a small half forward for Port Adelaide, and my role was to basically be the link-up man between our midfielders and our deeper key forwards. When our key forward was injured, I was rotated to play full forward against defenders who were twice twice my height and had a field day outmarking me. I would have loved to be able to go into the coach's office and let him know I wasn't happy with the change and that the team clearly wasn't benefiting from it. The third aspect that I don't think any sports game has successfully emulated is the off-field life of our player. Now, we don't want these games to become life simulators like The Sims or like GTA 4, where Roman's calling you up every 5 minutes to go bowling. But I do think there should be a way for us to be involved in our players' off-field life. Player career mode in EAFC allows you to make decisions about your player's off-field career. But all this boils down to is selecting some options on a menu and getting some points for it. That's not fun or immersive. My idea would be to have a choice-based minigame with real consequences, not just numbers. Let's say the game gives you a scenario where you're currently on a road trip for an away game and your teammates invite you for a night out. Do you choose to have an early night, which could help your fatigue levels for the upcoming game, or head out with your teammates? But it doesn't just end there. Let's say you choose to go out and while you're out, an intoxicated opposition supporter tries to start something. The decisions you make impact whether this results in you managing to calm down the situation or a brawl breaking out and you causing some bad press for the team and maybe even getting suspended for a few games. So in this minigame, you've managed to experience what your player has experienced to some extent and made decisions that have had real consequences on your career, all of which has taken just a few minutes of game time. So you're still spending the vast majority of your time actually playing the sport. In fact, this could even be extended to the on-field action. Maybe a ref makes a questionable call against you, or an opposition player makes an embarrassing mistake that allows your team to score. Do you let it go and celebrate with your teammates, or mock your opponent for his mistake? All of these decisions allow you to build a certain character and reputation for your player. That could see him be a fan favorite, respected for his good sportsmanship, or a pest loved by his team's fans and hated by opposition fans. Could be something similar to the Paragon Renegade system in Mass Effect. I mean, it's not like it's unheard of for sports games to take inspiration from RPGs. Again, 2K have dabbled with these ideas in the past, but typically in very scripted moments. Tiebreak has an interesting mechanic that allows you to respond positively or negatively after every point. Now, this mechanic has been around in this series for a while and I'm yet to see it make any huge difference, but it's definitely got potential. Let me know what you think of the current state of player career modes and what your ideal mode would look like in the comments below.